Jessica, yes, we have
Okay.
the first PowerPoint is ready to share on Zoom.
Okay, well, if you could get the video recording going, then we'll get the meeting underway if everybody's ready on that end.
We are ready.
Okay, and you got the recording going?
It is.
Okay, great, good. Well, welcome everybody to Design Advisory Panel for May 9th. And just a reminder that we're live streaming and video recording this meeting for the public. So we just need to start by adopting our agenda. So everybody received the agenda. Any concerns or changes? No? Okay, seeing none, can I have a seconder for accepting the agenda as presented? Or motion, sorry. Hector, and a seconder. I'm a little out of practice here. Angela, and all in favor? Okay, great. And we have one set of minutes to approve this evening. That was from our March 14th meeting. Everybody have a chance to read those? I think so. Okay, any suggestions, concerns, or changes? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Kevin, seconder. Nathan, and all in favor? Great. Okay, we've got two presentations this evening, and the first one is for property on Dufferin Crescent, and Christine Mays, City Planner, will introduce it. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application DP1334 is for a 5-story multifamily residential apartment building over an underground parkade. That's comprised of a total of 86 dwelling units. Subject property is zoned medium density residential, so that's R8, and is designated secondary urban center in city plan. Property is located on the north side of Dufferin Crescent, east of the intersection of Bone Road and Dufferin Crescent. Subject property falls within Development Permit Area 8. That's form and character, and 2 sets of design guidelines apply to the property, and that's the General Development Permit Area Design Guidelines and also the Hospital Area Plan. The proposed variant, there's one proposed variance that's associated with the proposal, and that is to increase the height of the principal building from 14 meters to 16.91 meters. And thank you, and I can answer any questions if there are any, Madam Chair.
Great. Okay, is the applicant ready to present there? They can share their screen and just maybe identify who's presenting, because we can't really see your faces, actually. It's really difficult to, so maybe you can introduce yourselves.
Sure. I can start. Yeah, my name is Dariush Firuzli, architect on the project. We have Mike, owner, with us here, as well as the Cara McDonald, landscape architect. And Scott Stevenson supposed to be joining online. I'm not sure if he's on waiting room or not. With that, I'm starting the basically presentation. As Christine already mentioned, the project is 1740 Dufferin Crescent, where the Dufferin Crescent actually start the curving around, and right before the connecting to the Bowen Road, right beside their Rexall drugstore, and cross the mall there. I put this one in the beginning. The biggest issue we did wanted to basically reason we designed the project the way it is, just following the curve in the property. These are some pictures of the basically building at the area. There is some residential apartment building, across the street mall. There is more smaller scale residentials there. And a few years ago, a couple of the big apartment building rentals built in the area. I will try to go fast to make sure we are in the 15 minutes margin. Don't want to spend too much of everybody's time. So these are the pictures from the Dufferin Crescent. There is few pictures. This is the access road, which is part of the actual property, easement going through the property, making access to the Rexall and also apartment building in the back. This is the property. It is sloped from the north to the south, from the north to north. There is few trees that they're in the back, in the north side of the property. We do have a walkway, which is we're trying to connect to this walkway, a walkway as well. This is this fence with the neighboring at the northwest corner. A different angle for the walkway in the back lane. Not the lane, it's basically walkway access. So, as you see, we do have a basically mixture of the different uses in area. Commercial, single family home and apartment building. So the proposed building is apartment building, 82 unit. As I mentioned, this curve, reflecting the curve at the area. They do have an entrance in the Dufferin and in the back. Again, that's the curve from different angle. I will talk about the design of the elevation in the end. We do have a big underground parking. We also use as we are a little bit above the density existed at the property, but we're using the underground bonus density to basically cope that. With that one, we could go 1.4. We are 1.3. The building is included 46 two-bedroom unit and 40 one-bedroom unit, and in the north corner is a stepping back to respect the neighboring properties. That's the elevation, and the material is very simple. Basically, the building is a very white color, and then we have a carving to the decks with the wood siding, and then some also top floor. We added that wood type wood shaped siding in the top, and with the eyebrows in the espresso color, which is I think I did pass that material. Hardy plank material. We are showing the wood grain. They are actually going to be smooth finish. It's not going to have a wood grain on it. Very simple building. Is not very complicated. We want it to be modern, simple, and easy. Honestly, this was when I suggested to client care building, they fall in love. Then I couldn't change the design because we already built another one. It has its own challenges with the construction. Takes more time and be a little bit more cost, but that's what they want. So it's okay. I will do more work. I'm okay with that. So I did look at should I address the planning department comment at the moment, or Madam Chair, or I should do this one at the end?
Sorry, what are you asking?
I'm asking if I should addressing the comment the staff had on the file right now, or leave it to the end.
No, you can explain how you're managing those comments, I guess, and yeah, go ahead.
Because they do have also landscape comment, I will actually leave it after Kara's presentation, and then we go over those comments if
Okay.
you look okay.
Oh, sounds like a good plan.
Okay, yeah. Here you are, Kara. It's not going to work.
Thank you, everyone. I tried to incorporate responses to staff comments in the presentation, so hopefully that'll cover that off. So the landscape plan provides screening of the building foundation with a wall along Dufferin Crescent, using terrace block walls and planting. The planting plan includes our indigenous cascading kinnikinick, along with a selection of drought-tolerant, ornamental, deciduous, and evergreen species. The use of block wall was chosen specifically to complement the block wall styles used in the neighboring residential developments. Plant selections are also taken directly from the palettes of surrounding single-family and multifamily landscapes. Staff's request consideration for a rock or concrete wall can be discussed with the client, and we actually had a conversation about that earlier, so we can revisit that if necessary. Street tree boulevard planting in lawn along the Dufferin Crescent sidewalk will also emphasize the residential landscape character of the town site area. Foundation plantings and raised planters on the north side of the building will incorporate our shade-loving indigenous plants and will screen headlights into ground floor units. The retaining wall along the north property line, topped with a concrete rail fence, will screen headlights into the park, which is the trail. Permeable paving, landscape islands, and coniferous tree planting have been incorporated into the north parking area. Minimum landscape treatments are not required along the park. Additional planting and landscape islands can be discussed with the client and architect. The minimum landscape treatment along the east side of the property line is a nice 3.5 meter wide strip, providing a substantial buffer of tree and shrub planting between the parking lot and the neighboring multifamily. The amenity space adjacent to the rear entrance incorporates parking area screen planting, an overhead pergola with vine planting, tree planting and raised planters, a bench, and 2 picnic tables. There may be opportunities to incorporate lighting into the overhead pergola as well. Pedestrian scale lighting along pathways can also be discussed with the client, which was a comment from staff. The lawn area to the east in the back on the north side of the property is a fenced dog area. The addition of permanent furniture in this area could also be explored with the client. There is a bike rack located at the sidewalk level adjacent to the main front entrance, and a bike rack and covered waiting bench located at the rear entrance. There may be an opportunity to extend the building canopy in the rear, or possibly the amenity space pergola to provide cover for that bike rack. This could be explored further again with the client and the architect. The addition of permanent furniture on the roof deck can also be explored with the client. I think that's probably a little bit more between architecture and the client there. And just with regards to trees, the underground parkade and site grading will definitely not allow for retention of existing trees on this very shallow bedrock site. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Do we have this Scott at the meeting, or?
He got trapped in his other meeting.
Yeah, I don't see him online.
Okay. So I do have Scott's report in here. If there is any question for him, I can answer. Regarding the comments from planning department for architectural, let down for access parking area, for sure we are not showing the detail here. Let down has to be there. Pedestrian conflict and the exiting from underground parking. Yes, for sure, we will mark out both sides of these exit from parkade to make sure, understand it. Exiting from parking is exactly opposite the Rexall entrance, is almost like intersection. We make it very clear to pedestrian and cars. They know that's the connection. Rock retaining walls already Kara responded to that, and weather protection also responded. I just wanted to explain 2 things. One, since we draw this one, obviously 2024 code came in, and with this new code, we have to have accessible access to the both entrances. 100% of the entrances used to be 50%. So we have to provide the basically accessible at the Dufferin Crescent, which will be easily can achieve from higher side. And also the archway from Dufferin Crescent because we wanted to make it more important, we separate it from building and put it forward, and it's like archway. But if we need to protect that area, one of the comments I think planning department they had, we can push back that archway and make it like porte cochere. That I don't see any problem there. Yeah, I think I already addressed all of these. Oh, the one last thing was stepping down in the 5th floor instead of being at the facing the water to be in other side. I think we did respect the buildings, basically lower buildings in our the west side. We are stepping up. The area people they can actually be in that open amenity in the 5th floor will be separated with the railing, and I can show you in the rendering. Here you are. If you see in the end, we do have some pergola there and the railing separating almost halfway after that step back. So people, they cannot go right to the edge. So they will not see the lower floor, the lower buildings there. So that's the code issue. We have to be less than 60 people up there. But regardless, they will not have a view to the low density building in the west side. I believe I did answer that, and with this one, I think we are right in 16 minutes, 1 minute over. So we are ready to answer the questions.
Great, very good, Darish. Thank you. Maybe you could just, whoever's managing the screen, stop sharing screen now, so I can see everybody's faces. Okay, do any of the panel members have questions for staff on this project? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll just start off here. Maybe Kevin, would you like to start off?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Darish and Kara, for your presentation. Very nice project. I've been waiting. I know this property quite well, and I've been waiting for something to come forward. I think what you did regarding the siting of the building is perfect for that site. The way you've curved the building relating to the street works very well. The building design, the form and character, I think it works really nice. I like the soft color scheme, and I like how you use the gray material to create the framing of those box out areas. Works really well. I really like that. So really the only thing is really what you decide to do with the entries. I think maybe you need to even consider a different approach to it. Dariush, did you look at other alternatives to how you, especially once staff addressed it, did you look at any alternatives, material choices, things, the scale of it? Did you look at the entries and have any other solutions to it?
Madam Chair, with your permission, I just wanted to know the concern you have, Kevin. Is it to be more outstanding, or what's the concern? I just want to understand.
Well, I think it's really a matter of enhancement, really, from my standpoint. I'm not sure how everybody else feels, but the entry seems to be lost within the facade, the mass of the facade that's there, and whether or not you looked at ways to make the entry a little bit more noticeable, to make it more of a feature, and whether or not you looked at any other solutions, even in the initial stages, whether or not you looked at any ways, or did you want the entry really not to be noticeable?
No, for sure we want it to be noticeable. We received the actually planning note concerns right before the meeting, so last week. So we didn't know these concerns existed. But for sure we are considering to go back and look at to see how we can improve to being more. One of the reasons I bricked that archway out in Dufferin Crescent to make it actually more noticeable and use the white color to stand out in the background. But for sure we can work in the different material form to make it more outstanding. I don't see any.
Yeah, well, I can't speak for everybody else, but I like the entrance way out further, and in ways that it could be articulated or enhanced in a way that would make it more noticeable. And that's my opinion on that. So, Kara, you mentioned, did you say the retaining walls are going to be stone now? Did you say that? Or
no, we proposed block to it because the neighboring residential is block walls. That was actually, I think the client would prefer concrete. I think that's what we discussed in the.
I like both.
But yeah, so it's an aesthetic thing. I was trying to kind of fit in with the neighborhood, but if there's a preference to another material.
Yeah, my preference would be more towards something either concrete or stone. Stone, I think, because of how the mass of it is. There's a lot of walls there that boulders, stone would probably look the best, in my opinion. But I think there's definitely a solution there that you can work with. Staff made comments about the weather protection for bikes. Did you address that, Kara? I can't.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear her.
That's okay. I just mentioned that we may possibly be able to incorporate a cover into the pergola and put the bike rack in the amenity space, or we can work with Dariush and the client to maybe extend the canopy in the back. I don't really see putting an overhead structure at the bike rack at ground level, but if we're putting in a ramp now, then maybe we can put that bike rack up and undercover as well in the front. So that's we'll have to that whole entrance is gonna be a revisit, so we can consider both of those options,
Okay, that's good. Aside from that, the real, elephant in the room is a 2.91 meter height variance. And I agree with Dariush that, you've kept the east side with the roof deck and setting it back, so we really don't have a fifth story really over that side, because that's the side that would probably concern me the most. I assume you didn't do a sun shadow study on this project.
It was a couple of months ago. I believe we didn't, but that's easy to do, and we did it ourselves, very short, and it wasn't any issue, but we can provide that one. There's no.
Yeah, because that's my only concern. I'm going to support the height variance, even though it is, close to, it's over 9 feet. I think I'm going to support it because I think density in this area of Nanaimo is very important. And it would have been nice to see, because the residential units to the north of the building are kind of set back quite a bit from this building, but there are a few units to the east of this building that could be concerning, in my opinion, especially with evening sun creating shadow lines across it. So I'm going to support the variance, and I think this is a very nice project. And thank you for the presentation again. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Angela, would you like to go?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the applicants for your presentation. Just want to say, just echoing Kevin, great project, very needed empty lot. Great to see it getting developed. I really feel like this project has hit most of the design requirements that I would be looking at. I feel like I would normally be suggesting, considering the connection of these lower units to the street, but because of that grade change, it might be a little bit awkward and affect the actual form and feel of the building. So I feel like just the way it is probably aesthetically the best choice rather than trying to connect those units to the street. And generally agree with all the staff's comments. If there was a desire to finally move that rooftop to the other side, I don't know if there's an ocean view on that side, on the side it's on, the east side, but the west side would definitely benefit from maybe a greater view scape across to Mount Benson and probably a bit more sun. So I'd support that. Otherwise, I didn't really have anything to add. So it was just a really great project. I like how it's designed to suit that lot and packed in all kinds of great landscaping. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Angela. And Hector, please to go ahead. We're not hearing you, Hector. Your mic is unmuted, so I'm not sure what's. Are you using a speaker on your headphone? Your speaker might be set wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
There. Yeah, we can hear you now. Nope, not now. There.
Yeah, sorry, I think I was muted for some reason. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I don't have concerns with the project. I think it's very nice. I think it hits most of the things in terms of a design perspective. My only concern, but you need to refresh me this because I think we're not allowed to comment on parking density. I think that's one of the rules that we have. Do I'm correct or I'm wrong about that?
Well, I think we comment on it in relation to the form and character of the building.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of on site, I think it looks a bit tight on the east side on the turning radius, where you have parking number 47, 46 probably, 46, 47, and 48, that corner outside the pergola. And the dog area looks a bit tight to me. So it will be interesting if they are willing to explore expanding the dog area and maybe losing a few parking spots, just in a matter to enhance the kind of the site of the building. But that's it. Yeah, I will leave it to our landscape architect to comment more on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks, Hector. Let's see, Nathan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you for your presentation, team. It's a good project. Darusha, I'm glad to see you have gotten over your quirky roof phase. And I quite like the simplicity of what you've done. I mean, when you deal with multifamily like this, wood frame, it has to be simple. And for the energy efficiency, you have to go this direction. So it's a good, clean project. I think everybody's commented on the context, how it addresses the street very well. I like that you're getting natural light into the corridor. I think it's a very important issue. What's been bouncing around here, and a couple of the comments are about the rooftop and the height variance, and Kevin was kind of alluding to it. But on the east side, actually, I have no problem with it on the west side. I think that's the appropriate move. I don't think privacy is a problem, given what Darusha is saying about the fascias and the step backs. But there's definitely a compositional issue. It's less about shadows, but this building would actually look great with a step on the west or the east side. It would really finish the composition off. And given the height variance that they're requesting, I think it's not a bad suggestion to say that that east side should step similar to the west side. Just looking at the building, it would really complete the project and turn it into quite a stunning project. I had a comment about the entry, since people brought it up. To me, it's less about an object that you're showing, which you're showing an object. The object seems to blend in a lot with the form. But given the height that it's on a podium up good 4 meters above the street. I would highly recommend you concentrate on a soffit expression there. And you like, because you're going to see the soffit, not from the perspective you're showing, but when you're driving by, the soffit is going to be a strength, not the form. So anything you could do about a horizontal plane there on pedestals or columns would be much nicer resolution would be much more noticeable as entry rather than an object to look at. So that would just be my comment about the entry. The curved building, which responds well to the street, also creates compositional issues in terms of the fascia. So, and this is a detail issue. Delrush, you showed a material palette of Hardie. It happened to be wood textured Hardie, but I am presuming that fascia is not going to be wood textured Hardie. It certainly is not what it shows in the rendering. But so there's the texture issue of how you deal with a curved plane and create some sort of elegance. I mean, the rendering starts to show it as segmented, which it probably will be. But if you start thinking about a compositional idea it's a very nice linear line and it's clean, it works well. But how do you actually create that? How do you create it and give it not quirkiness? If you go with metal, it's got foiling in it and it looks funny. But when you think about Delrush used to draw by hand, I know I've seen your sketches. We never drew a linear line. If you tried to draw a long linear line, it goes quirky. But if you draw a long linear line that's slight breaks in it, you perceive the line, but it's a linear line. And if you look at old hand drawings, that's how they work. And a fascia you could think of this in the same way in terms of how you detail that break. It's going to be segmented. I doubt you're going to curve your panels. So can you make that curve with subtleties of linear brokenness to pick that up? And I think it's a detail thing. And I think because it's such a strong feature to your building, I think those fascias particularly need a lot of attention. So that would be my comment. The break could work well with your flashings and your paneling, and I would suggest that is well detailed. And you select a Hardie probably that's not wood face. It's probably going to be a smooth face, I would think. I think the pad-mounted transformer is not shown, but I think that's workable in that corner. I think the grading has been commented on the street, how that works, and I think that's workable, whether it's stone or concrete. I'm sure that can be worked out from a landscaping perspective. So that's all I have to say. But generally, sorry for the critique, gang, but it's a good project, and I just think it could tighten up a little bit. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. And Jonathan?
Hello. Thank you for the presentation. For site design, I think it's worth considering, since there's excess parking, having a pedestrian connection from the outdoor amenity space to the fenced dog area would be good. So like around parking stall 38, maybe that could be like a sidewalk instead. Since there is excess parking. And I think it's worth looking at the ground floor units and their outdoor patios, and if in some cases, if it's possible to have gates and some access to those to allow tenants to access their units from the outside. It can be a nice benefit for just quality of living, having that outdoor connection. I know there's some grade issues on the Dufferin Crescent side, but it might be possible for some of the units. For the retaining wall, it sounds like, just from the comments so far, that it's still kind of being figured out what that's going to look like, but I think the important thing is just to have, since it is such a long wall along the main street, having something to break that up, whether texture or color. So it could be, if there's enough plant material that overhangs it, that might do it. But something to add texture to it, like whether that's oil-formed concrete or something like that, could be worth considering. In the parking lot, there's the washed river rock border along the park side. I think it's worth considering adding maybe a few more trees or some shrubs into that river rock border, just to break up the rocks a bit. And there was a staff comment about adding some more planted islands to the parking lot. I think maybe that awkward area around stall 48, 47 might be a good spot for that. So like, yeah, maybe an island around 47 would be good to just kind of get rid of that awkward perpendicular interaction between those parking stalls and the turning radius getting into the parking on the east side. For the bike rack, I always seem to comment on this every meeting, but I guess a good practice is to pick a bike rack that has 2 points of contact to the bike frame. So this is one of those zigzaggy U-ones where a bike frame could only contact in one spot, which is just really awkward to park a bike on that, and it's unstable. The bikes fall over. So I would suggest considering a different style of bike rack that has that 2 points of contact with the bike frame. It seemed like the landscape plan in the presentation had a bit more detail than what was provided to us in the package, but just looking at the one in the package that I received, having maybe some more pavers in that the outdoor amenity space, it looked like it was all concrete. So maybe breaking that up a bit with some paver elements might be nice. The plant material selection looked pretty good. Just maybe the one thing was maybe the honey locust tree. I've heard that those sometimes struggle in the Nanaimo region, so might be worth considering an alternative to that one, unless you have some past experience with that and know that it'll work well here. But that's my only comment on the plant material selection. There's a note that the dog area had a picket fence, just a metal picket fence, and there wasn't any detail about like what the color is on that. So I'm wondering if, just a question to the applicant, they can provide some detail.
I was thinking just black, but it could be any color.
Yeah, black can be.
Yeah, black dark color is probably best.
We mean not white.
Yeah. Yeah, dark colors usually the fence blends in a bit better and it doesn't stick out so much, which is nice. Yeah, considering maybe some furnishings in the dog area, like benches or something, could be beneficial. And there wasn't much detail provided about the rooftop amenity area, but so I imagine that's still in design, but it'd be good to incorporate some plant material and seating up there. The variance, it seemed like a lot, 3 meters almost, but the applicant noted that the OCP was encouraging 6 stories in this area, so if that's the case, then maybe it's okay. But yeah, 3 meters seems like a lot. Yeah, that's it for my comments. Thank you.
Great, and thank you, Jonathan. Hillary?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna look at my computer, but I recognize you're right here, so kind of awkward. I really appreciate hearing all the comments from the panel so far, and that you're addressing a lot of the staff concerns or comments already, so that's good to hear. Especially around like the accessible entry requirements, awesome. For me, the archway at the front didn't make a lot of sense because it doesn't really stand out just in the color that it is. So for me, I think if it was like pushed close to the building and like a covered thing, that would make a bit more sense. Otherwise, if it was in like a different material, I don't know if the intention is to put the address of the building on that archway, but yeah. And then as Jonathan mentioned, like in the renderings that we got and the design, the landscape plan wasn't as detailed. So like I noted that it just looked like a lot of little green shrubs along the front of the building, and it didn't look super interesting, but I think what you showed in the presentation showed a little bit more detail there. I think for those lower levels suites, like if there was some kind of screening for them, that would be nice to see. Maybe like some plants that would grow a little bit taller to deal with like both from the front and also from the parking lot at the back for people driving in and shining lights directly into those units. Some kind of screening would be cool. The renderings didn't show the amenity area, so I guess I'm kind of missing some detail on that. But I did wonder about opting for an enhanced amenity area or larger dog run, which is awesome that was included. Great, love to see that. And taking out a little bit of the excess parking to provide for that. Otherwise, yeah, awesome density, definitely needed in this area. I do wish some of the units were 3 bedrooms because that's a real need that we have in the city, but any density is good, and I support the height variances. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Hillary. Okay, let's have a look at my comments. I think a lot of them have been said, but first of all, I just want to, again, reiterate how great the form and character are. I think you've done a really great job there, Darius, with siting the building and having that curve. I went and looked at that property, and I think it'll be a great fit for there. And my only one concern, which has already been expressed by a couple people, is again that front entrance with the big archway. It just sort of doesn't fit for me, and I think that has to be rethought somehow. Especially since your entry is also raised, so somebody from along the sidewalk looks up at that big archway, it becomes very grand, which doesn't quite fit with the overall aesthetic of the building. So anyway, I think you probably heard enough by now about it. I actually thought your rear entrance from the parking lot was more noticeable and a much better design, but I see that's a little bit, the structure of the building's a bit different at the back, so you can do something different. But I think the panel's already given you some thoughts and ideas on that, so hopefully you can come up with something to sort out the front entrance, and then I think it's going to be quite a very good looking building. My other comment was also with the rooftop deck. I'm in favor of you leaving it on the west side, and if you're going to change anything, add another one on the east, as per Nathan's suggestion, just to sort of balance out the aesthetic of the building, as well as you have a second amenity area. I really don't think it's going to be a big imposition on the neighboring properties, and I think you actually have the west side's better because you're also away from the traffic there and looking, I think, a bit more towards probably have a better view. Would be my take on that. But anyway, those would be, I'd say definitely leave it on the west side, and if you can, add another one on the east. Let's see, I'm also, along with Hillary, I'm wondering why there was no 3-bedroom units. I'd love to see some more. I think here you've got a great property with lots of potential for a large amenity area because you're putting so much of the parking underground, and we do need larger units in this town. And it's such a great location. You're close to all the stores, schools, all sorts of things. So if there's any way for you to rejig your plans and make some of those units 3 bedrooms, I think that would be really, really great. Also wondering if you're adding any accessible units in your building.
At the moment we don't, but obviously we can go back and review this one to see if we can add a couple of 3-bedroom more accessible units. Basically, it's the idea to produce the more unit as possible, as needed, as OCP suggesting this is the high density area, minimum 6 story.
Right.
Yeah, but we.
Well, it's a great area for accessibility because you've got really good access to the grocery stores and so on there. For somebody who say has mobility issues, it would be a wonderful location for them to be. So if there's potential for that, that would certainly be great.
I was I was a part of the team. They were looking at the 3-bedroom and accessibility unit. I think we end up in that meeting. The city need to provide some bonusing type of the things to people motivated to build these one. I'm pretty sure my client will look at those if the city providing some relaxation in some areas. I don't know what they are, but for sure we look at that and see. We work with the city staff on that.
Right. Okay, good. The other comment I agree on is I think you've got some extra parking space, and it looks like you could probably actually almost merge your outdoor amenity space next to the dog, have them come together in a larger area and really take advantage of that outdoor space. It's a good location, and it's kind of behind the building there and would give residents a really nice outdoor space in addition to your rooftop deck. So making the building a very, very appealing place.
For sure, we do have a flexibility. Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm interrupting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a flexibility on the parking. The area is very known about having the parking issue. So we did not want to have it add to this issue to the area. That's why we are going above what the zoning bylaw asking. So to make sure we contain all the required parking at the
building. It's always a problem because you get people in a 2-bedroom suite and you've got 2 cars instead of 1. So,
exactly. Yeah. So we will have some flexibility. We'll work around that for sure.
Yeah. If you can extend that, that would, I think, solve a couple of problems that have been mentioned about that space this evening as well. My only other concern, when I looked at the property, the people behind on the other side of the public path are going to be looking at a 5-story building soon when that gets built, and a parking lot. And I'm just wondering if maybe just adding a few more shrubs and greenery to help shield those people in the back behind on the other side of that pathway. From the parking lot in the building. So I think, just any additional greenery there would be really a big help. And that's all I have to add. So I think we need to summarize here. We've got quite a long list. I think I can amalgamate some of them, but the first recommendation I'm hearing from just about everybody is to work on the entries of the building to help to improve their visibility and aesthetic appeal. Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay. Consider ways to add texture to the retaining wall along Dufferin. And we won't really specify. We've given some comments there whether plants or change of material. I think. Does that work for everybody?
Or just considering alternatives to the lock block retaining wall.
Oh, okay.
So I think in the context of, I think they understand what our concerns are. And just one other thing, Madam Chair. Just though, to clarify, the roof deck is currently on the east side of the property.
Oh, did I have my east and west mixed up?
I think Nathan made reference to it being on the west side, but it's on the east side, correct?
You're correct. I made an error in my comments.
Okay. Don't confuse me. I already have enough problem with left and right, let alone east and west. Okay, great. So consider alternatives to the lock block retaining wall. Consider, let's see, there was something about the river rock border along the path. I think that that's a little bit, I think, Jonathan, you made that comment about adding more shrubs to that, and that would fit with the comment I was making, as well as adding more greenery or plantings. So consider adding plantings to the river rock border along the back of the property, and consider adding planted islands in the parking lot. Did you want to add that, Jonathan, as a recommendation?
Yeah, I think so. I was mainly concerned about that one location with the awkward turning, but it seemed like there were enough islands in the rest of the parking lot.
And we combine that with just looking at reducing some of the parking spot and adding to the amenity area. Does that solve the same fit together?
Yeah, I think that makes sense for me.
From your point of view, yeah, you made a comment, Hector, as well about that.
Yeah.
So consider reducing parking and adding to the amenity space, or adding parking islands in the parking lot. Okay, that one. And Kevin, did you want to add, for them to complete a sun study on the property?
No, that won't be necessary, but I did make a comment. I think Kara might have addressed it regarding the weather protection for the bicycles.
Right.
And if you want to put something in regarding, because she came up with some solutions for that. And if I would just also just want to comment, the parking, reduction of parking, I'm sort of in favor of, but both my son and my daughter have lived in this neighborhood, and with the businesses that are there and pretty much a very minimal street parking that's available, it is a zoo there. A lot of people trying to get parking, and then some of these buildings are rentals and people don't want to pay for their parking spot in the building. So it is really bad. And so in neighborhoods like this, which should be considered great for walk scores and stuff like that, I'm having a differing opinion now, and I'm not sure what Councillor Eastmere thinks about this, but all I can say is this neighborhood is really bad, and my family has told me about how bad it is for getting parking. So thank goodness there's not a variance for parking, but I'm on the fence now with neighborhoods like this regarding parking variances and reduction in parking when it is something that people are just not adapting to it and they're not paying for it. So I just want to chime in a little on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, that's always the risk, and you know, I think if we say consider reducing some of the parking.
Yeah, can I just add to that?
Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm okay with extra parking. It's just I think some of the extra parking here has a negative impact on the site layout and circulation. So I think losing a few of the spots to improve that is okay in my opinion.
Improve the site circulation.
Yeah.
Okay, how about we do something like that? Yes, Nathan.
Yeah, just because everybody's chiming in.
You got to say your piece, okay.
This is the first time I really disagree with Kevin. Sorry, Kevin. Reducing parking is always the way to go. Congestion of parking is the way to go. And I know it sounds backward, but that's the direction all urban cities are going. But we're going to have to live with cars on the street parking, and the more they can do to reduce on-site parking, the better it is. Because you can make much better places. You can add ideas about asphalt that might be plaza, asphalt that might be play areas, but reducing parking on on-site parking is a good idea. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm thinking consider reducing some of the extra parking to improve the site circulation and or amenity space. And leave it at that. How does that sound? Okay. And we've talked a lot about the rooftop deck. We all have a bit different opinions on it. I'm thinking maybe not just make it, don't put a recommendation at all. They've heard our thoughts on the sort of aesthetic issues and as well as the which side of the building it should be on. So do you guys want to, do you agree with that? Just leave it, not make it a recommendation? Okay. Consider adding officials. You had quite a long comment about the fascia. Nathan and I wrote, consider the detail of the fascia so it fits into the overall composition and complements the curve of the building. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. And specifically, a subtle difference between the hardy. So, for example, I'm not sure how we word this, they're only showing wood textured hardy. I don't think you'd want that there, but just... I think Darosh mentioned, though, that they weren't going... He was showing us wood, but he wasn't going to use it. Is that correct, Darosh?
Correct, yeah. The only online I could find was with the wood texture. We're not going to use wood texture. Wood texture is good for small scale building. It's going to be smooth. One comment I have regarding the curve, sorry, Madam Chair, regarding Nathan, I didn't get the chance. We're calling this building curve, but it's not really curve. It's segmented. I did already one project in Bourne and Pride. It is exactly same, similar. Is basically segmented and big. So and then this soffit eyebrows, soffits, they are also parallel to the building. What we do if we go with espresso color on the hardy, we go espresso color on the soffit as well, but the soffit material is different. Because of the shade, you don't see in that distance you see the pattern, but you don't see the exactly different color because of the different suns basically reflect. So I've done it maybe more than 10 times in different areas, but I've done it in the Nanaimo once. So if anyone wants to see it is the building, you can see in Pride and Bourne Road.
Okay, did you want to change anything there, Nathan? I was consider the detail of the fascia to better fit the overall composition and complement the curve of the building. Do you still want to change that as a recommendation?
No, I think that works well. What Darosh is saying, it's going to be segmented, but perhaps just detail that segment and or we just drop it. I think he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah. All
right. Consider adding gates to the ground floor units for access to the patio area. Consider the type of bike rack, using a type of bike rack with 2 points of contact. Consider adding some other paving materials into the outdoor amenity space to break it up. Consider a different tree other than the honey locust. Consider adding some furniture to the dog park. And consider screening the ground floor suites with some plantings. So that I have, there are 10 recommendations. Does that sound like I hit them all, or any you disagree with? Looking good. Okay, and I'm hearing support for the variance. So if I could have a motion to accept the proposal project as presented with those recommendations and support for the variance. Kevin moves, seconder. Jonathan, and all in favor? Okay, great. Thank you, Dariush and team, and thanks for coming in and actually visiting in person. We haven't had a team in that room for so long.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to see you all again.
Good. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again sometime. Okay. Great. We have a second project this evening, one on Franklin Street, and again, Christine Mays, the city planner, will introduce it for us. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application DP1340 is for a 5-story multifamily rental tenure residential apartment building over a partially underground parkade, and that's comprised of a total of 53 dwelling units and 196 square meter ground floor commercial unit, and that will be facing Wesley Street. Subject property is zone Fitzwilliam, so that's DT2, and designated primary urban center in the city plan. Property is located on the north side of Franklin Street between Robson Street and Wesley Street, and it does front on all of those streets. Subject property falls within development permitted area 8, that's form and character, and 2 sets of design guidelines apply, and that's the general development permitted design guidelines and the downtown urban design plan and guidelines. The proposed variances that are associated with this application are 2. We've got a maximum height of a principal building, and so there is some work being done on that. At the moment, it's 12 to 17.85, and that's if the mechanical penthouse is exempt. And then number 2, a percentage of small car parking spaces. So it's asking for a increase from 40% to a maximum of 70%. I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. And who's presenting this evening? We don't have any faces up here. Turn your cameras on and let us know who's presenting.
I am presenting.
Good.
Okay.
Your turn now.
Now, thank you.
You're welcome to share your screen when you're ready.
Let me know if that worked.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. So, with a series of slides here. So, this has been presented more in a massing form to council and discussed with administration a couple times. A few of the conversations there have led to what we've interpreted the developer and myself, or the ACE, have determined as a desire for a more urban and less more urban form and look to the building. So that's what you're seeing on screen here. You're also seeing in the lower left the team that we have so far. So Carnegie Properties is the developer, Ace Architecture, architecture firm McDonald Gray, whom Kara was already speaking, and Scott Stevenson as well from J.E. Anderson Associates. Kara will, I believe, talk for, she said, about 2 minutes at the end. And I also have some of the comments from the panel inserted throughout the presentation, so she can address those towards the end. So we have 53 units. We're hitting an FAR of 2.3, which is what is in the land use. That breaks down into 7 micro units, 22 one-bedroom units, 24 two-bedroom units. The developer of this property, Carnegie Properties, they have other properties in Nanaimo, and they are skeptical of the marketability of a unit in this area without a parking stall. So currently we're proposing 44 stalls. That means the micro units that there are 7 of would be potentially without stalls, and then 2 of the 1-bedrooms or 2-bedrooms could be without stalls. So that's as close as they wanted to get. You'll see as I go through some of the challenges with striking a balance of that on this site. So that's not working for me. Page down. There we go. So as Christine said, bordered on 3 sides, 3 very unique streets. Wesley with a historic character, low-rise character. Franklin that we see as a more of an urban connector, pedestrian corridor type street. And then Robson as a cul-de-sac, more of a slow scale, slower pace to Robson. So there's some street views there. Just keep in mind, maybe pointing out, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but this corner is the corner of Wesley and Franklin, very important corner on the project. And you'll see as well, there's a 4-meter drop from Wesley to Robson on the site. And I make that point because of the height variance that's being asked for. And I'll just flip back up, because when we presented this to council, obviously a more flat structure of 3 or 4 stories on this site would meet the 2.3 FAR, whereas what we've tried to do is to address that low-rise character on Wesley. We've stepped down and created like an isolated CRU on that side of the project, and then stepping up our residential towards Robson. So moving some of that massing around and then getting some better height for the views of the harbor and maybe Newcastle Island and things like that over some of what's on the on that side of the on the east or north side of Robson, depending on how you're looking at it. As I said, a bit of a utilitarian slide here, trying to get the parking, the balance for what's going to work. You can see the property line in red. So we're building out, it's an urban site, very challenging to get all the asks. So as we build out parking stalls, drive aisles, walkways, garbage room. Can you guys see the mouse when I move it? Does that make sense? Yes. Thank you, Nathan. And then we've got one unit on this floor that could be for a building manager. Carmagie's still making a decision there. And then bike parking, indoor bike storage room, elevator, lobby, mechanical and electrical. And then what I want to point out here, there's a transformer as well, but this blue line that you can see right beside my mouse here is an SRW. So the city is registered, or hasn't, I don't believe it's registered yet, but it's in the process of being registered, an SRW for the sidewalk on this property. So we're giving some of that back, and in our discussions with administration so far, putting a loading stall in there because of the challenges on this site. For loading garbage, wheeling garbage out, that kind of thing. We need to respect the height restrictions, like 5 meters for an envelope of a loading stall. So you'll see when I show you in the later slides how we're sort of stepping the building back in, and you're seeing inset balconies on the P1 level and on the main level of the building. We're also challenged to get our bike storage, outdoor bike stalls in the lobby of the building within that SRW. And then you see on Franklin, we've tried to provide some landscaping. I'm sure Kara will talk about her challenges there in what we're left with on the Franklin interface. And so consider provision of public art. I think what I'll address that when we talk about the CRU in a couple slides. Oops, sorry, down. So what you're seeing here and what we're trying to highlight is just above the P1 level, moving up. So the first level of residential with the CRU, CRU facing Wesley is over here. To make a viable CRU, you're looking at 1,000 to 1,200 square feet in a very sort of rectilinear or orthogonal sort of layout, right? So in order to make that work, we've set back the doors. So I think you can kind of see the doors set back. We've given a 1.4 meter setback that I'll talk about a little later. But generally, the brown areas are where you're seeing what we're calling sort of amenity space to the building. So from here, facing the transformer, this will be on top of the parkade as I come around, and this will be all private amenity, terraces or patios, however you want to look at it, for the units at that level. Then as we come around, we've provided this is kind of a unique feature of the building. Typically when you do an L-shaped building, you end up with bad units in the knuckle. So we've separated that out. This will be a glazed wall here with sort of a breezeway connecting the two volumes. And that allows us to place this amenity space on each floor of the building that will be used for lounging or yoga space or fitness studio. On the main floor, it might be used for offices for Carmagie or for the building manager. So that has a balcony coming off of it, or a patio coming off of it that sits on top of the parkade. And then the residential units providing them access to grade. And there's some SEPTED comments. If I flip back quickly to the first page, what we're trying to do to address that, Kara can talk a little bit about the landscaping under there, but visibility is key in SEPTED principles. So we'd really like to keep the connection to the street rather than doing like a Juliet balcony there and totally eliminating that. But generally, we're trying to discourage loitering beneath those spaces and using like a high degree of visibility on Franklin to help discourage that. The CRU, as I said, the doors won't swing into the corridor. The developer is in discussions with administration Bill on some offsite improvements on, I'll call it a bulb for lack of a better term, on Wesley and Franklin. So doing some improvements in this bulb that help reinforce that corner and activate that corner for the CRU, it'll lead to a more successful CRU on that corner. I noted there was some comments about providing more of a plaza space. In order to keep that CRU viable, it's sort of at its minimum right now. If it was pushed for more plaza space, that CRU, it would eliminate the CRU, I think, from the conversation. So it would just become a residential building, and then that could be a public plaza. Here's the takeoffs on the plaza, because I couldn't find in the general or the downtown plans like a takeoff for what we should provide. So I thought I'd just give you some numbers. So it's 50% of the CRU facing Wesley, and then or 50% facing Wesley and Franklin, but it's a 2.6 meter offset from Franklin and a 1.4 to get the doors and provide some loitering and lingering space off of Wesley, so the sidewalk still hopefully functions properly. The Franklin interface, we're hoping to get a few tables out there. Let's say this was a cafe, we could put a few tables out there. I'll also talk about some of the overhang comments later slide too, but there's that. This shows you a little bit more on, cutting a section generally through Franklin on that grade drop. And so how we've pushed some of the massing onto the Robson interface, but generally it's, there's one unit on the P1 level and generally 3.5, 4 stories of residential with the CRU facing Franklin and Wesley. So what I would also point out here, there's the comment about covering the bike stalls. So I'll leave the CRU bike stalls to have a better image for that later. But when I was talking about that loading stall and the sidewalk, the registering the easement for the SRW, this is what I was talking about how we've set that the main level, as I'm calling this, and then the P1 level, we've set those two interfaces back off of Robson in order to allow the clearance for that loading stall there. And then that keeps that envelope above. Scott's done some work on that with the city's engineering group, and we'll continue to do some work. So that consider weather protection for short-term bike racks. So there's that one. And so here's a zoom in on the two corners. Generous glazing for the commercial unit. We've provided quite a bit of glazing with the proposal for glazed overhead doors or glazing panels in overhead doors. So those spaces for a tight CRU could open up to the street on a nice day. And be quite nice to sort of create that indoor-outdoor space where it is, you have the option to sort of close it in bad weather. We're a little bit nervous about going too far with the glazing, even though we've gone that far to almost fully glaze two facades, because we are trying to hit Step Code 4 for this. It ties into some of the funding and that Carnegie is chasing for the property, but Step Code 4 will really limit us on thermal breaks and massing jogs and things like that. So we have to be careful of that as we get into the engineering of that. Just want to make sure I fully address this in accordance with doing it. Ground floor commercial, and so for the residential, again, we've tried to set that back. As I said, if we could get beyond the SRW, there's about 2 feet there of tolerance right now where we've set this building face back of where I was saying that SRW blue line could go. We're giving ourselves a little bit of tolerance as we get into the structural considerations for this site to see what we will need for shoring potentially along Wesley. It's not a lot of room, but I think what we can take away from this is that where those bike stalls go, we'll absolutely try to cover those. I think it's a good suggestion. They will also get some cover from the balconies above. I know it's kind of high, and if you had a rainstorm coming in from the Robson side, hopefully get under there, but hopefully that helps with that. This is also takeoffs on the two plazas. So trying to fit maybe some benching in there. It's a bit of a balance again. It goes back to the sort of septet and loitering, like how big do you make it without making it too big in a downtown setting. So that's the balance that we're trying to walk with the developer, and I think discussions with Bill's group as well to date have been around that as well. So strengthening building corners. So That's what we're trying to do, given a very tight urban condition. Typical floor plan, 14 units. As I said, a mix of micros, 1 beds and 2 beds. I don't know if there's too much else to say there. Here, I did want to talk about the trying to fit on that interface where we're looking at the CRU facing Franklin. We, given the comments, consider weather protection for the commercial units. So maybe we look at something that fits with the modern look, like an awning or a small projection that helps protect those glazing units there. We're totally open to that, so we'll take that away and look at that. The other incorporating trellises for vines, we'll try to do that where possible. I might let Kara talk a little bit about that because I think she's had her challenges given the planting beds we provided. And then uppermost balconies. So I think this is a good image to talk about that, where the developer is actually hoping for a different product on the upper floor. We're stacking that. We've got views of the harbor, like I said, and putting a cap on that, especially from the interior living space, will just narrow that big expansive view on the upper floors, and it'll have a little bit of a wow factor. So we would prefer not to do that. Plus, as I said before, with step code, thermal bridging, we're trying to minimize our apertures in the envelope. So that's our take on it, but open to what the panel says here. Building design emphasizes the roof line with parapet contrasting materials. It is a modern design. We're trying to go for not having flat face material transitions, and then getting into jigs and jogs. We're trying to be very careful with the step codes. So I'll just say that, not to reiterate again, but window frames incorporate other features that reinforce residential character. We could look at the window, doing something in a casing there, or some way of framing those out that maybe gives it a bit more residential feature. As I said though before, we were trying to go with something on a more urban, less typical, even less residential character, but I'd be interested to hear what the panel's thoughts are on just what I've said there. So bike storage, consider long-term bike parking for the commercial unit. The developer would, for staff that are working in the CRU, they would make the indoor bike storage available. So I think that's a great solution, rather than providing a separate storage, or we, as a part of their TI with whoever goes in there, if they have room for bike storage within the unit, it could certainly go that way as well. This is an early image. I just wanted to talk about the step back and the massing, in case, just to give the history of that. So this was an image we showed during the council presentation. Right where my hand is, you can see on that facade, we had an extra unit, like 4 units total, those pink units or purple or whatever on the corner. Those overlapped the CRU below. Some of the comments we took away from that conversation with council and administration was to really reinforce that 1-story character on Wesley. So we've taken those units out. Those 4 units went away. It actually, as I said, the balance of parking stalls to units, the developer is a little bit more comfortable with that because it's fewer units that they have to offer without a parking stall. This is another image of that early massing. I would also point out, Robson, we've tried to keep more of the utilitarian, as I said, loading stalls. Parkade access is over in this corner with the transformer, residential on the corner, and that's probably clear from most of the slides. Just know what happened to my push back to the beginning. Sorry if that's making anyone sick. Landscape design, incorporate light covered roof. We're trying to do solar panels where possible. Absolutely, we will, like a TPO white, maybe an SBS, but we will be looking at ways of reducing solar gain. So 100%. Thank you for that comment. And landscape opportunities. So I'll let Kara talk about this a little bit, but I did want to make sure that we pointed out that on this rooftop of the parkade, we don't want to make apertures in the envelope. So we're doing planting, like planters on the top and fitting what we can in those. So those, you're seeing those as the dark gray right now, where we're planning to, separate, create some division between the units with those rather than a screen, but more of a grown screen or an organic or bio screen between the units, and then creating, places for them to have ownership over and plant. So we're doing what we can. Kara's maximized what's it on the ground, but certainly wasn't given as much real estate as the previous project. And I'd turn it over to her now if she's still there. I don't have my camera.
I am here, and I'll be even less than 2 minutes this time. So thank you. Covered lots of it here. The renderings, I think, explained everything. So the project is in the old Nanaimo character area. Along the Franklin Street frontage, we incorporated former rows of columnar of evergreens, ornamental grasses, and shrub roses and step planters. Where patio stairs and balconies do not allow for planting under cover, we use Stonescape with landscape boulders as a deterrent for occupying those spaces. I've never seen really any luck with planting that's covered just because it does need water when the irrigation system is off, and it doesn't get any in the winter. That said, we do have some of our shade-loving, dry-loving plants that we could maybe give a go, that maybe even have prickles in them that we could maybe incorporate into those Stonescape areas. The main entrance at the corner of Franklin and Robson incorporates decorative paving, a bench and bike racks. Along the commercial area on Wesley Street, we've indicated decorative paving and a single bike rack in an effort to maintain access into that commercial patio area. Around the PMT, we again have incorporated our shade-loving indigenous plants to screen. The private patios on the north and west sides of over the parkade are defined using raised planters as discussed. The client wasn't keen on having a whole lot of planting over the parkade. So we've used raised planters with evergreen hedging to screen between the patios, and trees and planters are located where space permits to just provide interest in some shade and some color. Additional planting areas and trellises with vines. I feel like additional planting areas are probably not in the cards, but we could look at some trellising on the Franklin side of the building, possibly around the sign. I was seeing in your renderings there, maybe there's an opportunity to put some trellises there. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Just gonna see what else I put in here. Some site sections, just to help. This is looking at the back. That's the CRU. These are the elevated patios, terraces coming out of those units. Parkade down below. Another section. This would be the parkade door out onto Robson, looking at the Franklin interface with the planting bed that's there and how the parkade sort of tucks in underneath that. Sorry. This does show the amenity space, so I think that's a nice section to show that, how the corridor flanks the amenity space and the amenity space between the two volumes. As we said, the corridor will look out over that sort of internal side of the L. This is a Robson street face. Just there. Material palette. So near grade, we're proposing. Still looking through the energy modeling if we're going to need exterior insulation. So for now, we've proposed a fiber cement panel that will look like gray brick, as opposed to a full bed brick, which would be very difficult and expensive to do exterior insulation with. So that's what you're seeing near grade, all the way down to grade from the main and on the main and P1 levels. A corrugated metal panel or metal panel above that on the street faces, so facing Wesley, facing Franklin, facing Robson. Hardy panel on the interior side, as you can see, sort of the transition here, and then metal panel wood and wood pickets and black frame windows. So very, very simple palette, trying to make the economics work for the developer. That I believe is it. Yep. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So if you could just stop sharing your screen, that would be great. And the panel members, anybody have questions of the city staff at this point? Okay, seeing none. Wondering, Nathan, you'd like to get going? Right?
Sure.
Kevin has a question.
Oh,
sorry, Nathan. Sorry, Madam Chair. I have a question for staff. Christine, you mentioned the height variance is whether or not the rooftop area is going to be excluded from that. That means that if it's not excluded, it's going to be even an additional height restriction. Can you just kind of clarify that, and also what measures will be need to be considered to have it not included in the height?
Sure. So 6.8 of our zoning bylaw has height exemptions. So we do allow a portion on top of the building for a number of different items. It can be elevators, stairs, and in this case, enclosures for sustainable building technologies, which is what is being proposed on the top. So it looks like from the discussions that I've had with the applicant preliminarily, is that it exceeds the 10% that's allowed. And so it would have to be reduced, or a variance would have to be sought to increase that percentage allowable for that height exemption.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Nathan.
thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, really outstanding project. So it is doing a lot of really good things. And I'm not sure that I want to get into it all, because there's a core issue that I think should be addressed. And it's really the story about a plinth on this street and the urban interface. And I want to focus on this just because it's a great project, and this is going to make it or break it. And they talked about the paneling, the masonry fiber cement panels, and I completely understand the economics behind that and the insulation values behind that. But there's a huge difficulty with that strategy on this design in terms of its urban interface. That rendering looks stunning. The color selection, the composition is really, really an outstanding piece. But either you need to build the urban interface with animation, which you haven't chosen to do, and that's your choice. But there's nothing wrong with walls on urban interface if they have quality. And you go to a European town, and there'd be a masonry wall up, 3 stories, and they're stunning. And the reason they're stunning is because vines grow on these things. They get broken, they get chipped. They have an urban quality about them, and they have a durability about them. And Hardie panel imitation brick doesn't carry that weight at all. So I think that's a serious compositional urban interface issue that should be addressed. And I sympathize with the difficulty and the cost of brick. I don't know what the solution is, but it needs to be done. I mean, you've got the paneling just is quite a different thing than a plinth vocabulary that's shown there. So I don't know how to discuss it stronger, but it needs to be brick as you show it. Or, even if you went to another strategy of going with concrete, well-defined, elegant concrete, there's another plinth strategy there. But paneling, think about paneling on a wood face is one thing, but now you've got to interface now down mason or concrete faces that are parquet, and then how that transitions down. And that all has to be durable. That all has to have this quality of this urban interface that you're representing there in the rendering. And I don't think Hardie panel or a fiber cement panel imitation brick will cut it. So that's what my comment. I'm not sure where to go with that, but other than that, it really is a stunning project, and I hope you can carry off this concept of plinth and make it elegant and durable. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Jonathan, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It looks like a really well-designed development from the renderings. Yeah, it has a unique character that stands out from the more generic modern stuff we see in a lot of development. So I'm excited about that. I guess it means the rents will probably be more expensive though. But anyways, yeah, I agree with staff comment about public art. So maybe some in one of the plaza areas, some sort of public art could be incorporated. Or there was a comment about trying to incorporate more trees. I think you've done a good job with planters and trying to incorporate trees into those. But maybe some columnar trees could fit in some of the narrower planting areas along the building. Or climbing vines, something to give a bit more vertical to the planting. But yeah, other than that, I think the designers did a good job in the presentation of addressing the landscape challenges and their approach. I was wondering if there was any consideration of like a rooftop amenity space, or I guess there's a lot of indoor amenity space, it sounds like, but in a downtown setting, there's probably some nice views off the rooftop, being close to the waterfront. So, yeah, maybe there's an opportunity there. There was staff comments about like green roofs or more solar reflective surfacing. Maybe since the building kind of steps some of the rooftops that actually has windows overlooking them, so the roof surfacing that's visible from some of the units could maybe have something like green roof or something that, I guess, just consider how the rooftop surface looks from any of the windows that overlook the rooftop. And the bike rack, I'll make a comment about the bike rack. I think this one's better than the one in the previous presentation, but it still doesn't have the 2 points of contact to the bike frame. So there's other options available from even the same manufacturer that has that additional point of contact in the design of the bike rack. So I'd say consider. There's some nice looking ones out there, so I'm sure you'll find something good. But yeah, that 2 points of contact to the frame is good for how securely locking a bike and just for supporting a bike leaning against it. So yeah, I'll suggest that again. Yeah, the variance, yeah, it seems like a lot, the 6 meters, but I think with the way the building is stepped, I think they're addressing that in a good way. So I think in the downtown setting, I don't have any concerns with that. So, and yeah, I think that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Angela?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to the applicants for your presentation. Yeah, great project. It's going to be great to have this vacant or this parking lot turned into something great for the city. I just had a few things. Definitely concur with adding some sort of art installation or celebration to heritage or whatnot, just in keeping with the guidelines and in keeping with some of the heritage ideas that are intended to be met with those guidelines. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick one corner, but definitely somewhere in the public spaces there. I'm not an architect, but I wasn't really loving the balconies just popping out so much. I personally just felt like it was taking away from the building and maybe just sort of overtaking the street connection a little bit more than the building. And I just really didn't have any solutions, but then I just thought, well, oh, maybe the lower units, in order to keep that connection with the street, and avoid having those spaces underneath the balconies for people to hang out in. And I was just in Boston a couple weeks ago, and there's all kinds of beautiful old buildings there, and lots of buildings have these steep stairs that go to the entryway into these buildings right onto the street. And I just think, well, maybe that could be an option here if there's enough space. It keeps the connection to the road, and then it doesn't have these sort of awkward side stairs coming off. I feel like it sort of takes away from the character of the building, just for that function. So I don't know if that is an option, but if it is, I think it might help not take your eyes focused too much on that aspect of the building. And then in line with that, the other balconies, I just thought, well, maybe they could be recessed further. The windows could be recessed further, and the balconies could just be recessed further into the building, so they're not so like popping out. But that's just my personal take on architecture. Yeah, I just felt like then you could just celebrate the actual building more than focusing on the balconies. Otherwise, I should have asked, but because there's so many bike storage spaces, and this is a commercial, there's quite a bit of commercial space in here. Was there showers and change facilities included for traveling employees?
Is it okay if I answer?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Through the chair. Sorry.
I've gotten in through the chair. I've gotten in trouble for that before. That I believe is best left as a part of the TI with the CRU. It's just a blank open space to be determined with that tenant.
Okay. Okay. I would just throw that into the recommendations then to consider including shower and change facilities for the traveling employees. And that was the only other thing. Was I did consider too the green roof idea or rooftop amenity, but because there's so much amenity space in the building, I didn't really think that was maybe a requirement in this proposal. But like a green roof on top of that one-story space might be really enhance the project, and also, like Jonathan says, a better visual from those residents in those units. I just had an idea about a herb garden, because it looks like it's kind of like it might be any tenant in there, but if it was some kind of food, produce cafe, and I know you can't really determine who's going to, if you can actually regulate people growing herbs, but I thought a herb rooftop might be nice there. So in the name of food security and our ecosystems might like it. So that was all I had, as well as just just ensuring that the CPTED concepts were being focused on at the rear of the building for security, because there's no eyes, it's kind of a hidden space back there. So just ensuring that there's appropriate lighting and safety measures for people at the rear of the building. And that's all I have to add. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Angela. Hillary?
Thank you. Regarding like the micro units that don't have parking, like also next door on Robson will be 31 micro units with no parking. We've also got like I think 90 units of micro units going in on Albert Street. I think I just wish that there was some like 3-bedroom units in this building, and I wonder like if some of those micro units you could like punch through the wall of the 2-bedroom and make them the 3-bedroom, and then might require less parking because maybe it's a kid who doesn't have a car. I really like the look of the building though. I think it's a beautiful and unique looking building. I really like the stairs down to the street, but I'm definitely not a fan of the boulders underneath. Like I think it's the most inelegant solution to. Yeah, I guess I know it's like a step-head thing, but I wonder if maybe that's an opportunity to put some like a public art aspect, like a textured metal screening with some like carvings in it or something that could serve that public art purpose, and so that's not just like gravel and boulders there. Step Code 4, heck yeah, great job, love to see it. Thank you for that. And yeah, I think the variance definitely makes sense. I wondered for the signage, I don't know if it's just the renderings, but it looks like it's like a neon signage. I hope that's not what it is because it doesn't really fit with the rest of the design of the building, but otherwise, yeah, excited to see this come to the design panel so quickly, and it's gonna be good. Thank you.
Thanks, Hillary. Hector?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I really like the building. In terms of massing, I like the balconies. I think they make some kind of texture to the building. I'm with Nathan. I'm very afraid of the fiber cement brick looking panels. We have a really bad experience in Nanaimo with the Marriott Hotel. They use fiber cement brick panels and they look absolutely terrible, more because the convention center has real brick. And then the hotel has fake brick or like fiber cement looking brick. Yeah, so that's I'm 100% with Nathan. That's scary. The other part that maybe I'm not really sure on terms of the background of the project is the solar panels that are kind of like the roof of the parkade. It's a very odd kind of like decision in terms of yeah. I think I will go for. I would rather see like a green roof in above the parkade instead of solar panels. Solar panels, I'm afraid, obviously everyone knows that area pretty well, that they're gonna get damaged by like people walking around or throwing stones or something. I would rather see the solar panels on the roof and see like some green roof above the parkade. Similar with the comments of Angela, I think a green roof above the commercial unit will be pretty nice as well. I know everything out of the cost of the project, so maybe these are kind of things that you need to like decide what's worth it. If I was gonna choose it, I would rather see real brick than maybe like green roofs because it's gonna give a lot of texture to that area of the city. What else? I think that's it. It's a nice project. I also agree with the comment about the boulders under the stairs. I really don't like that as a solution for landscape. Or like again, I know you're trying to avoid people like encamping under that stairs, but knowing a lot of areas in downtown Nanaimo, I'm pretty sure people are not gonna be stopped by some boulders. They're gonna still figure out a way to sleep between the boulders and the building. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Hector. Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Brian and Kara. Very, very nice presentation. Most of my questions and concerns have pretty much been addressed. I think this is a very great project that we're seeing, and I support the variances. This is sort of, once we're working our way now into step code 4 and then eventually step code 5, and and this is going to be the challenge for architects in the future is to design buildings that can meet the standard, and so you're going to get what are pretty much boxy looking buildings, and how do you deal with it? And I think, Brian, you did a wonderful job just with the use of colors and textures and a balance of those to make this work very well. In a perfect world, I would agree with Angela, trying to look at ways to recess walls, but to do that just doesn't, it's almost impossible to get it to work within the step code. And so as much as I'd like to agree with Angela regarding that, I just don't see it that it can be achieved. So, but that said, I think what you've done, Brian, with the balance of materials and colors, I agree with Nathan and everyone else who mentioned the panels. I totally agree with that. You can always, with any sort of panel, you'll if you look closely, you'll be able to notice the repetition, the repeating pattern, and it's almost impossible to avoid on large surfaces of material. I agree with the public art as well, adding public art, especially public art that would relate to the Nanaimo history. Definitely support that. The adding of a green roof on the upper floor would, Christine might want to correct me, but I think once you do that portion of the building that hopefully would be exempt from the height restriction would all of a sudden need to be incorporated. So instead of a 5.85 meter height restriction, you could be looking at a 9 meter height restriction. Would I be correct on that, Christine?
Go ahead, Christine.
Sure, I can find that exact number.
No, I don't need the number, but the building, the top portion would need to be a variance for sure. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as much as I would like to see a roof deck, sorry, Christine, go ahead.
Sorry, it would be up to 20.75 is the potential. And then this one's now 17.85. So that's sort of the difference.
So it'd be another 3 point something meters, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you're looking instead of a 5.85 up to maybe a 9 meter variance, probably something like that.
Yes, and I guess, Madam Chair, can I provide maybe perhaps a bit of context on the land use
Go
designation
ahead,
for this
yeah.
property?
Mhm.
Perfect. So it is primary urban center. So larger heights are envisioned, and so whether or not that's going to be perhaps a consideration for the variances,
Okay.
perhaps a discussion point.
Yeah, okay. And as much as I'd like to see that, I would just wonder what the public's, how the public would view that, asking for a 30-foot height restriction, pretty much, height variance on top of that. But I would go along with that if that's put into a recommendation to convert it to a green roof, and even a green roof with amenity space, like what some people are mentioning. I would support that as well. But all in all, I really like this project, and it's something that hopefully we'll see more of, especially in the urban center. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Thank you for the presentation. You guys have done a really good job to sort of explain the difficulties with the site and trying to situate a building of this type, a multi-use building in that location. I've got some other issues that nobody even brought up, which I'm kind of surprised. But my first is that Wesley Street is a beautiful street, tree-lined street. And this building, you're proposing of taking 2 trees down on the street. I'm understanding those to be those 2 very large trees, fully grown, healthy trees on the street. And that really concerns me, because Wesley's the only street we have in Nanaimo that I'm aware of that has these beautiful big shade trees in good shape. And there've been wonderful festivals down that street where you've been able to hold, close off the street and hold events. It's shaded in the summer. And this project is proposing taking those trees out. And I have a real issue with that. Now, in your proposal, you did say something about, well, if you didn't have the CRU and had a plaza there, I'm wondering, would that resolve the problem? Would that you be allowed to retain? Would you be able to retain the trees and either not have a CRU at all, or push it into the building further, like into the larger bulk of the building?
If I can answer right now, I think that the root bulb of those trees extends. Some people have noted that the parking lot that's there's roots growing through that parking lot, and then where the parkade wall, the foundation wall for the parkade, cuts through that. I think those trees are going to be very hard to save. The CRU right now invades the canopy space of those trees. We could trim the canopy back, try to keep them, but I think the root balls are going to lead to an unfavorable outcome. We would love to keep them too. Just
for the heritage aspect of the city and that street, I just think it's a real shame. I spent some time in Victoria recently and just enjoyed how many trees and tree-lined streets they have, and they've retained those. And if it comes down to not building anything there or building something smaller, I think that it's important to retain that. So everybody's talking about public art to reflect the heritage there, but then we rip down 2 great trees from there. So I've got a very big problem with that. So I'm going to put that out there. Maybe we can have a little discussion with the panel on this afterwards. The other thing I wanted to ask you is the wood that you're proposing, is that real wood on those balconies?
It's wood pickets, real wood pickets. It could be like a Indonesian hardwood or something that weathers well.
Yeah, it would have to be. That would be my concern. Yep. It looks lovely, but I think in this climate, and you don't have very much, no weather protection, that sort of thing.
Anywhere where it's on the building, it would be a metal that looks like that wood, and so we would work that out with actual samples. But sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you guys probably know the products, but I was just kind of concerned because it can start looking really bad, and it's very high maintenance in terms of keeping it painted and stained or whatever. The other thing on the form and character, I agree with Nathan. It's just a kind of a really neat building. I like the way you dealt with the knuckle situation that you were talking about and made that into an amenity area for interior. And when I was looking at this building, there's a couple things that struck me. The balconies really bothered me. That's what I look at the building and all I see is a box with these balconies and these stairs stuck on them. And I like a contemporary look. I'm not against that. It's just, it seems like you're highlighting the balconies and the stairs. That's the first thing. That's the only thing you see. But I was looking at this sort of make up the building, and you seem to have an opportunity there to make it a bit different kind of building. Like put, say, decorative Juliet balconies instead of sticking out balconies. And then in that little interior space, I wasn't sure if you divide it up. You said some of it's divided into private patio areas in that knuckle. And are you dividing them with little like fences? I couldn't tell from the landscape plan, it seemed very incomplete to me. So it was very hard to tell. Is that
with planters? They're divided with planters, not necessarily.
I'm thinking of in Europe, like you go into France, you go into these buildings and they have a courtyard and it's not divided into spaces. So you've actually got spaces. You're giving a lot of amenity space in the inside and outside. You've got a real opportunity to sort of make a bit different type of building, a building which is a little bit more like all that space is more communal rather than individualized. I don't know how that would work, but there's opportunities there for a quite a different kind of residential space. So I just sort of feel we don't always have to have a balcony for every unit. And I think, the size of those and how they're just sticking out, it's almost like wasted. It's just there as decoration. And I also don't like the stairs down to Franklin Street. I think they were going to be really problematic. I'm always in that I walk that corner all the time. Rocks or whatever you put under there, you're providing a little shelter, and you're going to find that people are going to use that or come up the stairs and be a problem. You've got people who are extremely high and not really thinking rationally. So I think you're putting the stairs down there, you're actually opening it to problems, and I just don't think it suits that sidewalk walking down that street either. So those would be. I'm quite. I see I'm not in in the same vein as everybody else in terms of this. The other thing with the CRU, one of my concerns is would there be venting on that roof if there's a restaurant down there?
Yes, but it would be screened. We would have to do something to make it look appropriate.
Yeah, and it's
hard
not
to know
really
what that. Sorry.
right. It's not really the screening I'm concerned about. I've lived in a building with a restaurant just below me, and basically you could smell every meal. Like it puts all the odor. So if you got balconies over that and residential units, all of that goes right up into the units above. So I think it's even worse than having the garbage bins down there. So I think that's a bit of a problem. And again, that maybe would favor putting your CRU into the building and leaving an open plaza in that area. But just a suggestion here as well. And finally, on the public art, even if it's in the city plan, I don't know that that's always the right place. Public art, depending what it is, maybe if it's used as a sort of decorative thing on the side of the building or a thing to fence off the stairs makes some sense. But I'm actually on a committee that decides a lot on the public art, and I don't think that's the place unless you have a larger space for it. So I really don't agree with the public art suggestion. So I'm kind of coming in counter to majority of the panel here. But if anybody in the panel would like to give a rebuttal to that, since I'm the last to speak here, please go ahead. So,
yes.
Yes, Nathan. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, actually, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, right? But in terms of the public art, I'm with you. A building is art, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, if they can take the budget from the public art and put it into a better plinth, I'd say that's where the money should be spent. That's what I have to say about that.
Okay, let's see. Kevin?
Agreed.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. And I don't want the applicant to designate an area, whether it's at the entranceway at the corner of Franklin and Robson, to find a location to put it. It can be very subtle, in my opinion. Like you do have that wall on Franklin Street where the signage is, and it could be a wall-mounted thing. It could be very subtle, but just something that would reflect the heritage of Nanaimo and the history of Nanaimo. So that it's very subtle for me. I'm not looking at it as something put out in the corner of a statue or whatever, but just something very subtle, just something that the applicant has considered the heritage of Nanaimo.
Okay. And Hillary, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, similarly, it doesn't have to be like a sculpture necessarily. It can be like stamped concrete or, yeah, some sort of like interestingly textured thing. Yeah, no, not just sculptures. So yeah, think broadly about public art, and I think there's a way to incorporate it in that sense. But thank you.
Yeah, I think we're really talking more about a decorative element.
Yeah.
Per se, and yeah, I get a little worried when we start giving them themes and telling them they have to do a certain theme, because I think we end up with something that's not that exciting either. So,
like botanical prints with like native plants of Nanaimo, like inlaid into the concrete or something like that. It can be simple.
Anyway, I'm not hearing anybody else is concerned about the trees on Wesley Street. Hector?
No, I agree 100% with Madam Chair. Those trees are quite important. I was working on a project in Duncan a couple months ago, and I was in front of the design panel. And for the smaller trees, I got such a hard time from the city of Duncan to try to get rid of one tree. So yeah, I think they're important. That's a beautiful street. I agree. I 100% agree. That's heritage of Nanaimo, those trees, and I would rather get rid of the commercial unit and just leave the trees alone and take it from there. So just on that basis, I will suggest that the applicant brings the project back again. And
I'm just surprised that the city
I will. Yeah, I didn't even
Council's
realize
actually-
until you mentioned it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just shocked. I was shocked when I saw that.
Yeah.
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Has the city arborist looked at those trees to see if Brian's rationale regarding, and it makes sense that the root structure for those large trees would have quite a base to it that would definitely extend into the parkade, because it's not just the commercial, it's a parkade that's below it, and that means reducing the parking as well. So there's things that we have to consider regarding that, and you know, if the roots can be cut back and the tree could survive, I'm not sure if it's worth the effort for the applicant to maintain those trees, and if they die, they die. But I don't know. But the main thing is, has the city arborist looked at those trees?
Christine, do you know what situation?
Yes, so as part of the referral process, the internal referral process at the city, urban forestry would be one of those groups that would be referred to. So any of those comments would be passed on to the applicant.
Yeah, Hector.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think we should reject for now this application until we don't get more information from an arborist. And if those trees, they need to go because they are not in good health, I guess the landscape design needs to be kind of like more expansive in a way to replace those trees. Not sure how that can be done, but at least they can come with some sort of solution. Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. I don't know how do other people in the panel feel, because I really do not want to see those trees go, and I think you're gonna end up with a community backlash if people get wind that you're going to cut trees down on that street. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, as much as I agree with what you're saying, I think in a project like this, I have to look at the whole scope of the project. And in this particular case, I think I'm going to side with the applicant. If the commercial unit on that side gets eliminated, then the whole context of how the building relates to the corner, the balance of the two corners, everything comes into question. And if our board decides to go along with what you're saying and preserving the trees, basically the applicant is going to have to reconsider everything in the project, including the density, which we obviously need. We need that high density of residential units, and I agree with that. You know, trying to add some 3-bedroom units to get more families down there. So, as much as I appreciate what you're saying, Madam Chair, and also Hector, I think I'm going to go along with the applicant and have the trees removed, or see if there's any way they can be preserved without affecting the form and character of the project. Thank you.
Well, anybody else want to? Jonathan?
Yeah, ideally those trees would be preserved, but if it's not possible, I guess we need more information on the feasibility of keeping those trees with all the disturbance that'll happen through this development. But I guess if we did move forward with the building in its current configuration and those trees had to be removed, then I guess we should find a way to replace them. I mean, it could be 20 to 30 years before they look as nice as the ones that are there now, but I guess at least start the process of having those trees replaced by something that will eventually provide the same value as what's currently there.
Okay, Nathan, you want to add something?
Yeah, I guess it's a trade-off, the CRU versus trees. Perhaps the applicant could just remind us, and what Kevin mentioned about the parkade, obviously that would have to be shifted. What would be the issue if we want to keep the trees? You got to lose the CRU, and you got to reduce parking. So what would be the issue with reducing parking on that section of the building? Could the applicant just comment on that briefly?
Parking ties to the developer's pro forma for the units, what they think they can market in this area. That's all I can say without Robin here, really. I know, like I said, he was very nervous about the balance of the units. That's why he was like generally actually quite happy with council's request to remove those units and give the CRU a one-story look. He was just take those 4 units out because he was nervous about the marketability. So if he loses the units or he loses parking, that's just going to affect his numbers. So
thank you.
Or did you have more to say, Nathan?
Yeah, I'm leaning to Kevin's side here on this one. As much as I love those trees, simply because it's a great project, and it just seems a lot to ask them to come back, given what they've done and providing here. And there must be a way to negotiate the trees for bricks. Anyways, that's all I have to say.
Hillary?
Catan reference, nice. I think if those were the only trees on Wesley Street, I would fight harder for them, but there's lots of other lovely trees along Wesley Street, so I think in the name of activating that corner and giving us density where we really need it, I think it's worth it for this, but it does hurt to see any trees go. But yeah, I understand why these ones would need to be sacrificed for this.
Okay. Yeah, Hector?
Yeah, I mean, just a quick note. I mean, it's an empty parking spot. It's an empty, like literally right now, the site is an empty parking area. Like I'm pretty sure there are other ways to preserve those trees. I mean, I think we have gone through several different projects in this panel. And you know, like we always deal with like hard, like, you know, tough sides, and there's challenges. And here's like, again, we're giving variances, right? So like, we can always, you know, go into like a happy medium ground. And I think if the applicant say, hey, I'm saving these 2 trees, but now I need like, you know, like a bigger variance to add more units on the other side, on the other kind of tower volume, I think at least I will be open to that. That's it. That's what
I don't think the developer would go for more units because you're losing parking. I guess that's what I was trying to say. The units don't, if you can't get the parking, the units don't matter to him.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Thanks.
Jonathan?
So maybe as a compromise, I guess a recommendation to replace the 2 street trees with new trees in the, if there's maybe a more minor design change that could create room for 2 new street trees in those locations, so that 20 years from now there'll be big nice trees there again.
Well, that's the sad thing. I think that's why we don't have those trees, because they've been expendable. And unfortunately, it's like our one and only street that actually is tree lined. Can't think of another one in Nanaimo that has those kind of trees. And so anyway,
or
if we could make a motion that I don't know. Hector and I are the only ones on this side here for this at this point. But if this went through, I would vote against it, just because I won't approve it myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we approve this, like any other project that comes and say, we try to reject it for landscape reasons, I will vote against it because I agree. These are like nice. It's the nicest street in downtown Nanaimo.
Other buildings could go on that site, right? You know.
Yeah.
We have lots of opportunity for density throughout the downtown. This is not like it's the one and only site.
I mean, just looking at that, the Old Cake restaurant, that could be a tower with like 10-story tower with a lot of density, and there's no trees there, right? So.
Normally, I'm not against some tree going down, but these, I just think this is a tough sell for me.
Yeah, and I also understand the performance of the building and the developer. unfortunately, we're not developers here, right? Like we're not here to just look at the bottom line of a private developer.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's what sort of shocked me, is that the city has even promoted this and it's gone this far and nobody's questioned what's happening to the trees. So I would like to propose that the applicant come back. I would put a motion in that the applicant come back after giving some time to consider the different options and see if they can find a solution to it or not. And then I'm not sure where we'll go from there, but.
Madam Chair, just as a point of order, I believe Hector would have to make the motion, and he would need a seconder. I believe, as a chair,
I can't make it.
Okay. I'm not sure. Maybe as a point of order, I just want to make sure this is done correctly.
Okay.
If you guys do it.
Would you like to try making a motion then, Hector?
Yeah, gonna make the motion that the applicant comes back with a proposed different landscape solution to preserve those trees.
Okay. And I would second it. And Jonathan?
Yeah, I would second it.
You'd second it. Okay. And do we have, what kind of vote do we have? How many? 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 against 3. Hillary can't vote, so yeah. So Kevin, you were going to say something?
Yeah, sorry, you didn't ask for a vote of who's against it.
Okay, who's against it? Kevin and Nathan. Okay. And 4, Marie, Jonathan, Hector, and Angela.
And Madam Chair, just a point. Can you clarify what the motion is? Like, can you have Hector repeat it? Like, it said the applicant needs to return, but on what grounds, please?
Okay, Hector?
My grounds is like I need to see a arborist report saying that those trees are not healthy, and also I would like to preserve for like the streetscape of Wesley Street.
So you said you made a motion for the developer to come, the
applicant, yeah,
back with a landscape plan that would offer a solution to save the trees. I think is what you.
Yeah, or with an arborist report saying that those trees are not in good health and they need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Madam Chair. Then is the application being accepted pending that, or are they returning? I think this needs to be clarified. Is the application, or are we fine with the form and character with all the recommendations that you have, or is it just that the application is pending based on an arborist and a landscape plan?
Well, I think it could be pending, but I think what the plan we looked at it'd be impossible to build it without taking the trees out. So pending might be better.
Is this the first time we look at this project on the design panel, or has been? I'm not sure, like, because I was not here last time that we got together. Is this project been reviewed before by us? I don't think so, right?
Where we've asked somebody to come back, you mean?
Yeah. Are they coming back with this project, or is this the first time that they present this?
This is the first time they presented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, we'd like to read back what we had documented as the motion on the floor, put forward by Hector, and that was to return with a proposed landscape solution to save the 2 trees in question.
Okay, that's better. Thank you. I couldn't get the okay.
Okay. Sorry, Madam Chair. Yeah.
So we could accept it pending that. If you want to go through that, we can go through all the recommendations and accept it pending a landscape plan that will save the trees. So I'm not sure.
Is this?
Madam Chair, I think that's probably what we should do. Even though if they are returning with a landscape concept, we pretty much have to readdress and make sure that all the recommendations that we're discussing now are addressed at some point in time, whether it's now or at the next meeting.
Right. Okay. So let me go through those and we'll clarify those. How does that sound? So we'll go back to that. First, consider an alternate finish to the hardy brick panel. Consider some columnar trees or climbing vines to the planting. Consider a rooftop amenity space. Consider a bike rack with 2-point contact. Consider shower and change facilities. Consider a different landscape treatment under the balconies on Franklin. I don't know if, Angela, you wanted the one about the neon sign at the front, or you were just making a comment? You want that?
No, that was Hillary, but my recommendation was for the stairs to just consider stairs vertically up into the units to avoid the space underneath.
No, I don't know if they could do that. It'd be out the sidewalk, wouldn't it?
That's what I had just offered a consideration, if that wasn't an issue.
Okay. I already did green roof, but I think was a better one. Consider a green roof rather than solar panels on the garage roof and on the commercial unit. We can take out that earlier one, I think. And so then, yeah, consider, okay. So consider alternate finishes to the hardy brick panel. Consider some columnar trees or climbing vines to the planting. Consider rooftop amenity space. Consider a bike rack with 2-point contact. Consider showers and changing facilities. Consider a different landscaping treatment under the balconies on Franklin. Consider, did you say vertical staircase? Was it? Yeah, vertical staircases to the Franklin Street units. Consider a green roof rather than solar panels on the garage roof and on the commercial unit. Yes, Nathan?
Yeah, just a comment about the brick. It's, if we could just reword it subtly, it's not hardy.
Oh, okay. Hardy panel.
The term is fiber cement, okay. And it is imitation brick. And we're talking about replacing it with a durable material, okay, that has more durability.
Consider a more durable finish to the CRU.
And the base.
And the base. Okay. And, there was the public art one that we said. Consider public art, public or decorative art. Or in the landscape plan. Okay, so that is 8 recommendations. And I'm not hearing any, there wasn't any, I think, objection to the variances. There was some discussion on that. So if we accept the proposal, how to phrase this now?
I think, Madam Chair, we need to rescind the original motion. Okay. And that had been carried, and create a new one that encompasses these recommendations and the preserving of the trees.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not sure if we have to, maybe staff knows, do we have to vote on rescinding the first motion?
We can, I think we can have
point of order.
We want to amend that motion.
Yeah.
You've already voted on that motion?
Yes, we did.
So, go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, go ahead, Lydia.
Make a suggestion?
Yeah, so the trees are off-site. So we may recommend that that's something that would be addressed at design stage acceptance and some internal comments through referrals. So perhaps maybe that be a consideration. Lainey, I'm not sure if you had any additional comments on your end.
Don't quite know what you mean.
Sure. Oh, sorry. So when it's an off-site tree, so it would usually be addressed because it would be a city tree, so it would be addressed at time of design stage acceptance. So that is post-development permit, and then any of those removals would be, of course, subject to the tree bylaw. Any replacement value or replacement trees would also be subject to that as well.
So how does that affect our recommendation here? I'm not quite sure how to put that.
Madam Chair, I think what that means then is at this time, the proposal is to remove the trees that suits what is needed to accommodate the development. Because the trees are located in the city right-of-way, however, they would need approval to be removed, and that would be looked at in more detail when the civil design through the building permit process is addressed. And if replacement trees are provided on site or whatever means is necessary to address the bylaw. So some of that discussion is still to be determined.
I'm really at a loss at sort of how to deal with this as a motion. So Kevin, any suggestions? You've got most experience here and we don't have any other
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think basically what they're saying is that because the trees aren't on the property, there's nothing much we can do about it. The root structure goes into the applicant's property. So if they want to remove the roots of that tree, I guess by law they're going to be permitted to do it. And if the tree dies, and it's on city's property. So the way it sounds is, as much as we would like to keep the trees, the applicant is not bound to it by our actions. And we say that we want the applicant to do everything in their power to keep the trees. We can ask the applicant to do that. But in my opinion, it seems like they're not going to be bound to it in any way. We can ask them to try, but I have a feeling that there's nothing from what Christine and Lainey just mentioned. I don't think there's anything we can really do about it because it goes after the application. We can say, look, we don't want, we can reject the application and have them come back with a project that better suits the site. We can say that, but all in all, I think it's been on public record now that everybody loves the project. And for us to say, no, for the sake of these two beautiful trees, that we're going to say, no, you have to come back and come up with a better solution. That could be tough. So legally as well. So that's all I would say on it. And staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like we really don't have much we can do to guarantee that the trees can be saved.
I have a thought. If we go to section 4.1, they have a lot of height. It's a small thought, but it might help. They've got a lot of height in that parkade. So it is possible to lower that edge of the parkade to give root clearance, theoretically. If you look at section 4.1, so maybe could we make that as a recommendation that they modify the parkade slab on grade as much as they can to protect the root ball of the tree. And I don't think they need to lose parking there.
But they're still having the CRU that.
Yeah, the CRU won't change, but there's what 3, 4, 5 feet of that that they could give root to as a notch in the concrete. How does that sound?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might suggest that rather than asking the application to be returned, that a recommendation could be, as Nathan has suggested, to look at the opportunity to either reduce or modify the parkade as designed to accommodate those trees to be retained.
Yeah.
Leave that for your consideration.
Yes, modifying the parking lot.
I think it's a great suggestion by Nathan. We'd be happy to look at it if you guys can figure out a way to work it in with what you're talking about.
Our ninth recommendation then would be consider modifying the parking garage so that the root system of the trees, Wesley Street trees, can be saved.
I don't think we would guarantee saving but the root ball, the way that, because we're still going to have to cut some of those roots. I just want to be clear about that. But I think going forward, what I heard is getting an arborist to comment on, we could give a cross section there. They could look at the roots. We could talk to them, but I don't want to see these trees go either. But we need a workable solution. So yeah, I don't know if that helps.
Yes. Hector, how are you? Are you okay with that? With just adding it as a recommendation?
May I interrupt for one moment, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Jessica. In order to make a new motion that impacts the direction that you're giving, I would strongly encourage you to rescind the motion that you previously made that's conflicting with it. And I would need a motion from you just to rescind that one, please.
Okay, let's have a motion. We have a motion to rescind that last motion. Kevin? Is the motion seconder? Angela, all in favor? Okay. Now, we need a new motion to accept the project as presented with the 9 recommendations, one of which is having an arborist look at the tree roots. How is that? I forget how you phrase that now, sorry. So Jessica, could you repeat that? Or who told me that?
Madam Chair, that was myself, Lania.
You're there. You were there. Okay.
I think the comment was originally to suggest look at modifying the extent or design of the parkade in an effort to retain the trees.
Okay, I'll let you say that motion. Okay, so that's the 9th recommendation. So accept the presentation as the project as presented with those 9 recommendations. And do we want them to come back and explain this, what they can do or not? I guess like Kevin's saying, we probably don't really have any legal recourse to, and whether in the end these are recommendations go anywhere, I just have I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll make that motion, accept it with these 9 recommendations and with approval for the variances. Somebody like to make that motion? Nathan, seconder? Kevin? All in favor? All against? Hector and Marie? Okay, it passes with 2 objections. Everybody else was for. Okay, I think we've resolved that. I'm sorry to keep you on that. You know, appreciate your efforts on this project. I know it's a tough one, but I was really quite surprised to see this project being proposed and the trees disappearing. So appreciate your patience with this, because you're not really sort of faced with this problem all the time. So thank you to you and Kara for coming in and presenting, and thanks to everybody. I guess we can, if we don't have any other business, we can adjourn our meeting. Make Kevin motion, or do you want to say something, Kevin?
I think if this might be a good opportunity if people have time is after we've shut off, if we can go in camera and just have a little bit more of a discussion about this, because I've been on the panel for many years, and this is the first time anything's come up with this, where there's been trees that are outside of the project, outside the property line that we have to deal with. So if everyone has time, I would love to stick around and chat a little bit further about it.
I don't think we can. We're half an hour past our time, and we can't keep staff for this. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe we can look at adding that to an agenda and having a discussion about that at a later meeting. So we can put it on the agenda. So yeah, we've already kept everybody quite long today. So, and I'm losing my voice, I think. So anyway, thank you, everybody. And so we have a motion to adjourn. Sorry. Kevin, seconder, Angela, all in favor. Okay, great. Thank you to the staff back there and your patience as well. Okay, thanks. Night.
Yeah, good night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.